Alright, so today we're gonna try something fun. We're gonna try to install Matomo on a super cheap shared hosting package that I have lying around anyway. It's not even €6 per month, and we're gonna see how it holds up. Let's dive in. Hey, and welcome to the channel. My name is Leon. This channel exists to help you use your web stats to grow your website. I want to thank everyone that has been liking my videos and has subscribed to the channel recently, because that really helps me out a ton, getting these videos out to as many people as I can. As a way to say thank you, I've created a short cheat sheet on how you can grow your website traffic. Whether you have a new domain or an existing domain, if you want to grow your website traffic, just head over to the video description. You will find a link over there where you can download that cheat sheet for free. Also, if you want to watch more videos, just head over to my profile. And if you want to see if there have been any updates to this video, check the video description because I will link them over there. Alright, so we're going to take a look at using Matomo on-premise, which basically means we're going to download and install Matomo on our own server. And why would you do this? Well, obviously you own the data. So if you're a technical person, you probably really like that you have more control over, for instance, the raw data retention. You can just use the data or keep the data forever. Things like that, you just have a little bit more control. But I believe the major reason for people to use Matomo on-premise is the price, because you do not need to pay anything to use a Matomo on-premise versus if you would use Matomo in the cloud, you have a little bit of a monthly cost. So the cost go up if you have like larger websites. So for instance, on 100,000 hits per month, you pay €38 per month. Although the price is free for Matomo, you need to take into consideration that you obviously will need to pay for a server that Matomo runs on. And if we check the requirements, the server that they recommend for tracking 100,000 page views per month or less is quite large. So 2 CPU, 2 GB RAM, 50 GB of SSD disk. If I logged into DigitalOcean, which is my preferred hosting supplier for these kinds of projects, and at the moment of recording this video, this results in a hosting package of about $18 per month, like 2 GB, 2 CPU, and then I have 60 GB of storage. But today I want to try something totally different, because I already have like a very small, cheap hosting package running that I use for testing purposes only. And it's incredibly cheap. I use one.com for this. I use their cheapest package, which is not even €6 per month. And I want to try out if I can install Matomo on this and if it holds up. Obviously, I will not be able to track 100,000 hits on this. But the question is, if I have a lower traffic website, if I have a small budget, will this work? So before we're going to dive in to how to set up Matomo on-premise on a cheap hosting package, I want to talk about the downsides, because this does have some downside that you need to know before you get started. First of all, the version of Matomo that we're going to download is a basic version. It is a dialed down version that doesn't have some of the functionality of the cloud package. And if we want to use all the functionality, we need to purchase quite expensive yearly licenses to use those. So for instance, A/B testing, custom reports, they have all kinds of paid add-ons, and you need to pay a yearly license to be able to use those on your on-premise server. So this is a big downside. We're going to use a very dialed down version of Matomo, which might be fine for you. Also, if you use Matomo on-premise, so if you're self-hosting Matomo, that means that you are responsible for updates, security, and stability yourself. So it might happen that Matomo needs some updates, and then you click update and it doesn't work, and then you need to bring in maybe a specialist, somebody that knows more about servers than you do, and that might be very expensive. Or you might lose data if you accidentally delete files, or your server might get hacked if you, for instance, have a very simple password. So there is a little bit of risk involved. Also, it will put a load on your server. So I really recommend that you do not use Matomo on the same server that your website runs on. Especially if you use a very cheap hosting package, I really recommend that you just purchase another one and put Matomo on there, because it might slow down your site if you use both WordPress and Matomo on the same server. That's also why I don't really like to use the Matomo WordPress plugin, because they do have a WordPress plugin that you can install inside of your WordPress, but Matomo is quite a large program and I don't want to risk slowing down my website. So I really like to keep it separate. All right, let's look at some technical details. I already told you that I'm going to use a one.com hosting package, because I already have this for testing purposes. It's not even €6 per month. You might have something else. It doesn't really matter if you want to follow along with this tutorial. However, you will need to look up some technical details, and usually you will be able to log into a control panel and retrieve this information from there. And very often you will be able to set a password as well. So this is the information that you want to look up before you start. First of all, the FTP login. So this is for uploading files to your server. You will need a protocol, and if it's not mentioned, it is probably FTP, but if it is SFTP, that is important information. You will need an address, so where can you log in? And very often this is FTP dot and then your domain name, but for me it's SSH and then my domain name. And then often a standard port is used, and then you won't need this information. So for FTP, the standard port is 21, SFTP, the standard port is 22. But if a non-standard port is used, I'm just making this up, but for instance, a 900, then that is mentioned explicitly and you will need that information, otherwise it won't work. Then you will need a username and a password. Also, what you also need is the login information for your database, because we will need a database to store all our web traffic. The first information here is the host. So this is an internal host in the werkplaats.nl/.mysql. A database name, a username and a password. And with this information, we are ready to install Matomo on our own server. All right, let's go ahead and download Matomo to our own computer. So I'm going to press download and then scroll down a little bit. And here you can download Matomo for free. I already brought Matomo to my desktop folder. So this is a small zip file. I'm going to unzip it by double clicking, and that will generate a folder full of files. All right, the next step is to upload our files to our own web server. And for this, I'm going to use a free program called FileZilla. I will link it down below. In FileZilla, in the top left corner, you have a small icon that you can use to fill out your server details. And I already went ahead and filled out the login details in this little window. So I chose as protocol, I chose SFTP. The host name, the port I left empty because it's the default, a username, password, and then you can double click to connect to the SFTP server. And then I want to trust this server. Yes. There you go. I already made a folder on my server called Matomo. So I double click that to enter that folder. And now I'm going to upload all the files in the Matomo folder to my server. This is going to take a while. I'm going to skip ahead when it's done. All right, that took a lot longer than I expected, but we're almost done. So once the files are uploaded to your server, you should be able to go to your domain. So for me, that is in the werkplaats.nl and then /Matomo, because we've installed it to a subfolder called Matomo. And you can pick whatever subfolder you like. So if you want to use analytics on the server as a subfolder, then you can type analytics here. Want.com has a clever trick because every subfolder on the server can also be used as a subdomain. And I just really like the look of a subdomain a little bit better than the look of a subfolder. So that's why I'm using the subfolder here. But if you're using a different server than Want.com, you should be fine by going to the domain and then /Matomo. But for me, again, Matomo.indewerkplaats. Let's look if we're done uploading. Yeah, it's done. So we're going to go ahead to Matomo.indewerkplaats, and we should get a step-by-step check here. And I'm going to switch to English so you can follow along here. Yeah, there you go. Let's go through all the steps and look if this even works. So the first step is the welcome. Let's press next, and Matomo will perform a system check. So it's going to check if our hosting package is actually fit for what we're trying to do. And this is for me a little bit nerve-wracking because if this doesn't work, my video might not work out. It's recommended, so we're probably going to be fine. I see a lot of checks, so I guess my server is doing fine. This is a relief because otherwise I would need to come up with a different topic for this week's video. But it seems to work fine. The database setup, yeah, this is what I was already expecting. So we need to fill out our database information right here. We're talking about this information right here that already went through earlier in the video. So let me just copy and paste and then we'll move on to the next step. So I filled out my database information. Let's go ahead and press next. Yeah, there you go. Tables are created. Let's press next again. So super user, we're probably gonna need to come up with a username. So I'm just going to press Korteweg and then my email. And then let's generate a password for this. I don't want to subscribe to the newsletter. Send me info. No, let's press next. And here we're going to set up our first website. So the website name is leonkortweg.nl. I'm going to use just my own regular website. Our time zone is Netherlands. Yeah, there you go. Time zone. I don't have an e-commerce site. I'm going to press next. So here's my tracking code. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put it in a separate text file. We're going to use that later to set up our site. Let's press next. Congratulations. Continue to Matomo. So the setup is done. There's one step needed. We need to put the tracking code on our site and then we can sign in and check out what we actually have. All right, we're almost done here. So the next step, getting our self-hosted Matomo setup up and running, is to actually implement this piece of code on our site. So I went ahead and logged into my own site. There are basically two things that you can do. You can paste in the tracking code on a plugin, for instance, this head, footer, and post injection plugin that I like to use for these kinds of things. So if you're on WordPress, you can go ahead and install this plugin. It will allow you to just paste in tracking codes and insert this to the head of every page of your site, so it's really convenient. If you do not have WordPress or you do not have the access to these kinds of things on your site, just go ahead and forward this piece of code that we've got in one of the previous steps. Just forward that to the web developer that you purchase your site or that is maintaining your site. He or she will be able to add that piece of code to your site for you. Another way to do this is via Google Tag Manager. So if you're using Google Tag Manager, just use a custom HTML tag and paste it in. You could also import the Matomo template, but it is a little bit more hassle. This is the easiest way to do it. So there's one little caveat. If you're using multiple Matomo instances, for instance, you have a cloud version and a server version that you want to use alongside of each other, like I have here, you cannot just use both and expect it to work. It just doesn't work like that with Matomo. So what you need to do is you need to modify your tracking code a little bit in that instance. I will put a link in the description to the documentation with all the steps that you need to follow along to get that set up and running. But if you're just using one instance, this is all you need to do. All right, that's it. That's everything that we needed to do for our install. I'm super stoked that it all worked out. Let's try and log into Matomo, to our self-hosted Matomo for the first time. I already filled out my username and my password, so let me sign in and see what we get. So it lets choose our tracking method. We already did this. We inserted Matomo via the JavaScript code. Let's test the installation. So it's testing. Sometimes it will not work, and that is because if you're making a change to your site, you need to empty the cache. And I forgot to do this in this instance, so I expect it not to work. Yeah, so let's test again. Yeah, now it works. Let's go to all websites. So here is something I didn't expect. I get a warning on this particular site. This might have something to do with my domain, but of course this is my own site, my own self-hosted domain, so I know it is safe to proceed. Let's just ignore it for now and let's go ahead to see what we have here. If I go into the dashboard, it's still gonna bug me for the tracking method, although I've set it up. Okay, here is the dashboard. And what do I see here? So visits in real time. So let's just visit the site. Let's go ahead. If view detailed visits log, does it get any data already? Let me log out real quick. No, there's no data yet. Maybe real time. No visits. Does it even work? Okay, let me just check the network tab here. So I want to know if my Matomo is working. Is it sending? Yeah, Matomo.in de werkplaats. Here it is. So let me run it at the bottom so we have a little bit more space. So here is the hit. It connects to my server. It's okay. Yeah, we're all good. So, oh, and here it is. So I have real-time traffic, one visit, visits log. Yeah, here it is. My IP address, it is anonymized. I can see that by the 0 and 0, so that's privacy friendly. Yeah, it works. So I'm just super happy. Obviously, I don't have any data yet. So I have one visitor here because I've just set it up, but I actually have the cloud version of Matomo already running on my site for a couple of months now. So I wanted to take a look and put it side by side and see what the difference really are. So let's go ahead and do that right now. All right, I went ahead and logged into the cloud version of Matomo as well. So I have the cloud version here in the second tab and the self-hosted version in the first tab. Let's go ahead and compare the two, because if I just go through the tabs real quick, I don't see a lot of differences. I see the menu is a little bit different, but it just looks very similar. Let's go ahead through the reports and let's see if we can notice any differences. So obviously the self-hosted version doesn't have any data yet, and the cloud version does have some data collected already, because I have had this running for a couple of months now. I see a cohorts report right here that is not there on the self-hosted version. These kinds of reports are maybe interesting if you are like really aiming for customer retention. To be honest, I don't use these reports very often, so for me, for my use case, I wouldn't miss that report. Let's go into the behavior section, pages. This is obviously like an important report. Let's go to index here. So it has switched to the day. I want it to set to a month. Obviously I don't have any data here, but this is how it would look on a normal day. So this is really useful. You get to see like what are the top pages. Entry pages is another like really important one that I use all the time. Like, where do people land on my site? What are important landing pages? What's the bounce rate? What are the conversions? Let's go to traffic sources. Do we have all the traffic source reports? So acquisition, all channels. Let's go to all channels. So direct entry. So I have direct and search engines here. It's the same report, so it's all available up to this point. We get to set up goals. I didn't do that on the self-hosted version. I will make separate videos on setting up goals and setting up filters. I'm not going to do that right now, but the report is here. And as you can see here on this the cloud version, this is when I started to use Matomo. So funnels. Yeah, so here we're going to go into like features that are not available on our self-hosted plan. So the funnel reports, I haven't set them up on the cloud version either. So I should do that first to be able to leverage those reports. But on the self-hosted version, we need to purchase a paid add-on. And these are add-ons that you need to purchase a yearly license to be able to use those. So let's go ahead and look at what the price of those modules are. So matomo.org, and then pricing, let's go to add-ons. So I guess they are somewhere here. Yeah, there you go. So for the funnel reports, you're going to pay from 180 per year. It is for unlimited sites, but it's capped to the number of users. So if you have up to 4 users, you're going to pay 180 to use funnels. So forms, form tracking, form analytics is the same. You will need a module for that, and the module costs are 150 per year. Media, I haven't recorded it. To be honest, I have not been using these reports anyway, so up to this point, I wouldn't miss a lot by just using the self-hosted version without paid add-ons. The media module is at this point 160 per year. Yeah. A/B tests. I like to use separate programs for this, so I won't purchase this. But if you want to use A/B tests from Matomo, that will cost you at this point 200 per year. Heat maps, again, I use different programs for that. But if you want to use that from Matomo, a heat map module, where is it? Heat, yeah, 200 per year. Session recording is the same module. Custom reports, this is a module that I would want to use, and a custom reports looks like this. So you can create a new report. So let's test. Let's create a new report, at least one dimension. So let's make a report about like our campaign name, and then visits, visitors. I want the bounce rates per campaign. Let's just do something simple. Let's create a report. it has been created successfully, and then the test report is right here. It will take a few hours for the data to become available, so I cannot show it to you right now, but the ability to make custom reports, so to do deep dives on the report, that's something that I would consider purchasing for my use case, and a custom report module costs 200 per year. So those are the things that you would miss on self-hosted free version of Matomo. Cohorts is here as well as a separate module. So if you would need that multi-channel custom crash analytics. So there are different modules on the pricing page that you can go through. Advertising, conversion export, web vitals, white label. So if you use this as an agency and you want to put your logo on top, user flow, search engine report, WooCommerce analytics, activity log. So there are different modules that you can purchase on a yearly license. Then there's one extra menu option here, and it's called Unlock the Power of Crash Analytics. And it's not on my cloud version, but it's also a separate module. By the way, if you don't like having all these menu options that lead to a sales page, you can easily just hide this section. So for instance, you don't want session recordings, you can just hide this section, hide the heat maps, and then it will just be a lot leaner experience. So the media section, I'm going to hide them all and just keep only the sections that I intend to use. I might use funnels in the future, custom reports, goals, and you have a marketplace option to purchase all these extra add-ons. All right, that's it for today. I hope this video was clear. I hope it was helpful. I had a lot of fun installing Matomo on like a super cheap hosting package, and I was actually kind of surprised that it worked well for my use case. Obviously, I don't have thousands of users on my site. I think you will get in trouble if you try to track that many visitors on such a small package. And then if you want to do that, I really recommend upgrading to a larger server. But I was surprised how well it works. And especially if you do not need all the extra modules that they offer on a yearly license, then this is actually a quite affordable way to run Matomo. Just make sure that you're able to handle the security and the stability that's involved with it. Because there is a little bit of risk involved when, for instance, your server is down, when a hacker gets access to a server. There is a little bit of risk involved going this route, but it is a little bit more affordable and therefore more accessible for lower budget applications. So thanks a lot for watching. If you have any question, leave it down below in the comments. Would you like to see more videos on Matomo? Let me know. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.